I think kind of over the past year, post-pandemic, there's obviously been a lot of attention given to the NHS and the acute hospital sector. And dentistry, the UK dentistry market has faced very similar issues. And we hear about dental deserts across the UK and so on. I think what the report does, it gives some really kind of detailed analysis and insight into the impact of the pandemic, where we are now, how we've got here, both for the NHS and the private sector, from private dentistry, and of course what the future looks like.
The biggest impact in the last 3 years has been COVID, understandably, and this affected the dentistry sector in a much more extensive way than it affected lots of other parts of the healthcare market. And for that reason, dentistry, particularly private dentistry, has been slightly slow to recover. So we've been able to look back right through that period and analyse what's been happening using data from many, many different sources. We've also taken the opportunity to completely review and revise the data that we already held and include some new data, which will give a really comprehensive overview of the market right up to the middle of 2022. There are some real signs for optimism, particularly around things like dental insurance, dental cash plan. There's been recent growth in that. The importance of having that type of cover seems to be well recognised. There's also been a growth in some aspects of private dentistry, not just the restorative and the remedial, but also around things like cosmetic dentistry and extension into things like facial aesthetics. As there is more investment in the tools and the techniques that are available to dentists in their surgery setting.
I think there's kind of probably four groups of people who might be interested in what's available in this report. The first is clearly existing providers, people who are delivering services within the private sector into this market. And what the report does, if you're one of those, it gives you an insight into what your competitors are up to, enables you to compare your performance with them. You'll get an idea of where you stand in terms of market share and profitability. There's been a lot of consolidation in the market in recent years. And although the pandemic may have slowed things down, there's continued interest in acquisition. The second group are the payers, and let's deal first with private payers. There's a plethora of dental insurance, dental plans and health cash plans who are funding dental treatment, and there's a lot of changes going on in how that's funded and the kind of nature of those plans. The second form of payer is obviously the government. And policymakers, and I think it's the most comprehensive report available for anyone who wants to understand how the dental contract works, how we got there, to understand both current and past government policy. Our policy section goes right back to the 90s, describing the kind of continued pursuit of a dental contract that works for both payer and provider. And we're still not there yet, I'm afraid. And the final group is obviously investors, banks, private equity companies. I think it's a must read for them. They may be considering investment in the market, or they may have existing investments that they want to compare with what's going on elsewhere. And they need to know where the opportunities are, what the future looks like, and whether the industry is a good bet for the future. And I think, based on our predictions of growth within the market, then it's clearly a market to investment. So for those groups of providers, funders, investors and policymakers, then I think this year's report is an absolute must read.